Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Sunday afternoon edition of the We Want Houston podcast. I'm your host, Clayton Anderson, who also covers the Houston Texans for Toro Times of the Fansided Network. Joining me today, speaking of Fansided, is fellow Fansided site expert of the Las Vegas Raiders-based Just Blog Baby website, Mr. Levi Dombro. Levi, what's going on, sir?
What's going on, man? Thank you for having me on here. Excited for this conversation. It should be a fun week.
Absolutely, man. Been looking forward to it, man. We've done work with each other in the past, and we're putting it on film now, and we're gonna keep on working together. So it should be fun. But yeah, man. Preseason week number 2. So the NFL season is officially back. We're inching, we're crawling. We got out of the desert, scraping the bottom of the barrel as content creators. So Levi, I'm gonna ask you first, man. Like, just how are you feeling? Right, preseason week number 2. Like, what is the sense of excitement on your part?
Yeah, I mean that's the perfect word for it. Excitement. I mean, expectations are sort of, low this year. It's year one of the rebuild, and so just
Mhm.
really looking forward to seeing how these guys progress and hoping you just see a positive trend. I mean, things aren't as serious for as for a lot of other teams where it's, title or bust or win the division or bust. And so vibes are pretty high right now because it's easy to just kind of say, well, that guy won't be here next year if somebody doesn't play well, whatever it is. So it's been good so far.
I understand, man, that word expectations. But
Hmm.
let's take a step back for a bit. So going into preseason week number 2, there was a week 1 to all this. So I just want to go around the NFL really quickly for those who are just not tuning in or becoming new NFL fans. I'm just going to go around, Levi. So preseason week number 1 matchups, we got Bengals over Lions 16-14, Steelers over Packers 28-9, so blowout. Colts and Patriots actually tied with each other, so that's fun.
There you
Chargers
go.
stomped out the Texans 27-7, so there you go. Cards against the Raiders 27-14, which we will discuss. Titans beat the 49ers 19-13. Dolphins dropped one to the Commanders 20-17. Broncos beat the Falcons 27-7. A lot of blowouts here.
Yeah.
Bucks beat the Jets 24-16. Bears, another blowout, blew out the Browns 34-10. My goodness. Bills beat the Panthers 29-14. Vikings beat the Giants 13-10. Rams beat the Chiefs 20-12. Jaguars beat the Saints 24-20. Ravens beat the Eagles 24-7. And then the Cowboys finally beat the Seahawks 17-7. There's a lot of games. But yeah, man, that's around the NFL preseason week number 1. It's a lot of storylines, a lot of narratives being pushed. And speaking of this Raiders, so we talked about you guys, right? So my first question to you, man, is going to be about last season, the wrap up, right? So to kind of sum it up, right, as a Texas fan from afar, right? The last time the Texans and Raiders crossed paths, the Texans won a hard fought game 23-21, and a surprisingly tough game, gritty game. But beyond all that, you guys' season was pretty tough. So you guys ended 3-14 on the year with a 10-game losing streak from weeks 7 to 17, I believe.
Yeah.
You guys started off 1-0. There was that. You fired Pete Carroll, so just a bunch of stuff. So Levi, just talk to me, man. Like, what you mentioned expectations, right? But what were the sentiments at the close of last season, going into the draft? Like, what was it low? Like, was it hopeful? Like, what was that like, man?
It was it was hopeful because I think bottoming out like that, we knew that we were getting rid of Pete Carroll, which was something that pretty much everybody in the fan base wanted. More than just losing the games, it was how we lost. I mean, we weren't competitive in most of them. Texans game was sort of a weird aberration, but we were not competitive in most games, and we only won a single game between weeks 1 and 18, and we weren't playing our young guys. We weren't developing players, so it was just sort of a mess. But the hope sort of came in at the end when we clinched the number one pick and everybody knew we were getting Fernando Mendoza. There was no telling us otherwise. And so everybody started getting hopeful again. There was a lot of head coaching candidates that people seemed to like. We ended up landing one of them. And so it was sort of a necessary evil, I guess, to bottom out like that. And we've just hovered in mediocrity and below for so long. It was nice to have like an obvious path forward, I guess. So surprisingly, Raider Nation was pretty optimistic, at the conclusion of last season.
Like you said, man, you got to find that silver lining. So you guys did bottom out hard. You did. Excuse me. But like you
Yeah.
said, you got former Indiana Hoosier Fernando Mendoza, fresh off a championship. So you got that. You got Clint Kubiak, who just won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks. So you got that. So you have the offensive leaning head coach. You got the quarterback, right? Who looked nice, by the way. We're going to talk about that. And you do have a lot of runway, right? So there is that. And you got Ashton Jeanty. Like, you have like this kind of young nucleus kind of developing, right? And you have another piece that I'm going to talk about later that I wish the Texans would have got. But yeah, man. Let's talk about Fernando for a bit. So preseason game number one, I got some clips right here for you. So Fernando Mendoza, man, he came out, and this is courtesy of the NFL. Came out, I would say electric. He came out and let me pull up the stats really quickly while we're looking at that. So Fernando was 10 for 16, 97 yards, 62.5% completion percentage, average 6 yards per reception, one touchdown, no picks, one sack, and a 100.3 passer rating. Even though you guys lost 27-14, that was still pretty good for Fernando Mendoza for his first NFL action. So, Levi, I'm going to ask you, man, after kind of what you saw, is it too early to believe that maybe there's a pathway for Fernando Mendoza to maybe change the plans of the Raiders? Because they want to start Kirk for the beginning of the season, I believe. So do you think Fernando is there a path to change that, or is it pretty set in stone that Fernando's going to come off the bench?
There's certainly a path. There's a lot of obstacles in that path right now. But what I think we're seeing is it might not be long until Mendoza comes in. I mean, there was a lot of talk about him sitting the whole year, him coming in after our week 13 bye. And if he keeps playing like he did, on Thursday, it's going to be hard to keep him off the field, especially because I don't think Kirk Cousins is a bad quarterback. I don't have a ton of faith in the fact that he's not going to have a multi-interception game, and we have this brutal schedule to start the year, and I mean, we're going to have a game where we probably lose by 2 scores. And so, the noise that's going to be sort of, blaring out of the fan base and potentially in the building is going to be pretty big if Cousins struggles at all. And so I'm really interested to see how they do in joint practices this week, both of them against the Texans, because that's such a good measuring stick for us. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely challenging. They should be rotating him in more with the first team, in my opinion. But I mean, we'll see sort of how that goes this week. But yeah, he's definitely making the equation a little more difficult here for them to start Cousins.
So the thing about Mendoza, as talented as he is, right, and it's the same thing I'll say about a lot of young quarterbacks in today's age. Levi, I don't know if you agree with this, but we're in an age now where development is not valued anymore. That's probably not breaking any news, but these guys have to come out ready made, and if not, like teams are in a rush to move off that guy and elevate this guy and do this and do that. And for Mendoza, I think you have a Kirk Cousins who know he hasn't won a Super Bowl, but he's a highly experienced vet. He knows what to do with the position, and he's beatable in a sense, right? So, but he's a guy like Alex Smith or Patrick Mahomes, where you can learn behind Kirk if that's the plan and feel good about it. And along the way, like you said, bye week, stuff like that, week 8, week 9, wherever your bye week is, if you take the
Hmm.
reins in, I think he'd be all the better for it. So, I was thinking about that earlier. You would hate to take Fernando, who has some good traits right now, but it turns bad mechanically because he's pressing early, trying to prove something, right? So, I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like that saying. I don't know who said it, but teams fail young quarterbacks more often than young quarterbacks fail teams. And so
Mhm.
you think about the people we got in the building. It's Tom Brady who sat. Obviously, way different scenario with him, but Clint Kubiak worked with Kirk Cousins for 3 years in Minnesota, and so I mean, these guys, their background is in developing quarterbacks, and so like you said, it's more than just Mendoza being ready and good enough to play. It's can the offensive line protect him so that he doesn't, develop bad habits and drift back in the pocket or do things that are uncharacteristic and not productive just because it's what he had to do? Is the wide receiver core, coming together? Can the run game be leaned on so he doesn't have to be Superman? And so I think that's all important. And it's going to be hard with some of the veteran guys. If Mendoza's truly the better quarterback, you have to put him in there at some point. But I don't think you need to anoint him immediately. And I know that it's hard to be patient in the NFL and the Raiders especially. It's like we've just had a new coach every year for like 6 years, but you finally have to just say, we're gonna let him have a runway, we're gonna let this thing build. And even if it's not what the fan base wants or what is immediately gratifying, you just have to do what may ultimately be best in the long run. So if this guy's going to be the QB for 15 years, what's 6 to 8 weeks or 12 weeks of him sitting?
Yeah, I understand. So speaking of young talent, right, and developing, you guys have another young piece that it hurts. It hurts me because he did exactly what I thought he would do. Uh, let me quiz you real quick, Levi. So, what's a quarterback's best friend besides a defense, besides a tight end, besides an offensive line? What is the next skill position you can think of?
Run game, running back.
Running game, right? Running back. Y'all
Yeah.
got a man by the name of Mike Washington Jr. out of Arkansas in the fourth round, 122nd overall, that I wanted the Texans to get so badly.
Hmm.
Even if we had David Montgomery, which we do, Woody Marks, I thought what Mike Washington would have brought to this rotation. I mean, oh my goodness. So looking at his draft profile, and shout out Lance Zierlein, standing 6'1", 223 pounds, big dude. Like I said, fourth rounder, ran a 4.33 at the combine, the fastest amongst all running backs for this season. Like, I wanted him so badly.
Yeah.
And look, let's just shout him out real quick. I got some footage of him. So this is him getting announced, of course, with his family. All the love, all the, yay, all the stuff. I don't know if that's cheetah print. I don't know what that is, but hey,
Looks
as
good.
as the kids say, looking drippy. Um, you know, and of course, Levi, he does this in the second quarter against the Arizona Cardinals. Of course, he does this first and 18, takes a handoff, and look at that. What do you know? Breaks a tackle, get off me. I thought he was going to the house.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to the house, man. I thought he was going to the house. And look, but
Hmm.
even with that, like he showed you exactly what you saw at Arkansas, right?
Hmm.
Physical runner, athlete, can catch the ball also, but physical runner, tough. And here's just the backside angle, right? And funny thing is, he doesn't even like fully follow the block. I guess he does, but he just
Hmm.
makes that play, gets out of there. Excuse me, get off me. And if it wasn't for 42 having a good angle, I mean that's a house call, right? So that's what you want any day. And that's your running back too. That's not even your starter. That's
Yeah.
unfair. Y'all greedy. So anyway,
Yeah.
look, my grief aside, man. So how excited are you guys about the? I know you got Fernando Mendoza, but the young, exciting backfield of Ashton Jeanty and Mike Washington Jr., who, by the way, is 19th all time. I don't know if you knew this, but 19th all time in rushing yards in the season with 1,070, puts him in between Michael Smith's 1,072 in 2008 and Alex Collins with his 1,026 in 2013. So didn't know if you knew that, but yeah, 19th all time. You only played one season there, but there's that.
I,
Anyway,
yeah.
but how do you feel about this exciting backfield? I'm hurt, but how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard not to be excited about Genty last year, and again, different situation with him coming in, but hard not to be excited about like how Washington complements Genty as well. Genty doesn't really have like top end breakaway speed. He's more of a guy that's gonna juke you and get 8 to 10 yards. He'll obviously bust some like big plays, but Washington just has that home run hitting speed, and he's a big dude that can be a bruiser, in short yardage situations too. And so both of them can be good in the pass game. They can both sort of, come up blocks, read, and bounce it outside. It's really exciting. And what was most exciting to me about Washington was that, it was as great as he as a prospect as he was, it was obvious why he fell, a little bit. I didn't think he was going to go to the fourth round. I mean, I thought he was going to be a third rounder, but he had some fumble issues. He had some issues in pass protection. They said maybe he's too eager to bounce it outside and doesn't always read
Mm,
well, but in that first game, you already saw he had a great blitz pickup, to protect Kirk Cousins. He had a really nice chip to help out our left tackle. He made himself available in the passing game on a nice check down, and he was patient, and he read off those blocks. Maybe it wasn't perfect, but he's so physically gifted that he doesn't have to be perfectly perfect, and he was still able to he ran up the middle and then was able to bounce it outside at the right moment. And so I was really excited with the way that he played. And I mean, Ashton Genty's Ashton Genty. He didn't have the rookie season that we wanted him to have, but wasn't really his fault, and you sort of see
mm.
his promise against one of the best defenses in the league last year in the Texans. I mean, he's clearly capable of doing damage against the league's best. And so I'm super optimistic about that, and hopefully Mendoza can lean on those guys too. And yeah, it's exciting. Sorry, sorry, but it is exciting.
You don't understand. I wanted I wanted him so bad, man. I do. Look, again, shout out to Texans backfield, David Montgomery, Woody Marks, Jawar Jordan, or Noah Whittington. Like, sure, I like what we have, but I mean, listen, man, it was not a the biggest need, right, when the fourth round came
Mm-mm.
around. But still, like, who cares? Who cares? So it is what it is, man. I would contend and say you guys just on paper, I think you guys have the most athletically like the ceiling is the highest for you guys' backfield. Like just athletic giftings, I think no worse than top three. Ashton Jeanty, Mike Washington, like pound for pound, skill for skill. Like you said, Jeanty being, effective both in the ground and in the air, through the air.
Mhm.
And Washington just, he can catch a little bit, but his, like you said, his strength is bouncing outside, being strong, being bigger than you, making nothing out of,
Mhm.
making something out of nothing. Like that's a good 1-2 punch for the future, man. And I really enjoy that for you guys. And, I'm going to be a fan of that backfield, man. I'm going to hurt from a distance, but, I just, that sucks for us
Yeah,
anyway. But yeah,
I
man.
feel you.
But moving on from that though, man. So we got other storylines with the Raiders. So Max Crosby, right? I thought he was a Raven, right? You remember we got the red alert amongst all the side experts, like, hey, write about this, like, how does that affect you and all this stuff? And then all of a sudden, nope, like, he is not a Raven anymore. He is still a Las Vegas Raider. But I will say this, Levi, he's taken it very well, at least publicly. I've not seen him make a stink of it. It's just one of those weird things that happen where it just didn't go through. So, Levi, what do you think about that, man? Is there any potential for that kind of falling through that trade to linger over this team? Like, will he be a trade asset mid-season? Like, how do you see that developing?
I mean, just because of the timing of it, I don't. It's not really an issue anymore. I mean, it seems like they've sort of let bygones be bygones, and they've had some real conversations. Crosby's talked about it on his podcast. Like, he respected the way the Raiders did it, and he did ultimately, say that he wanted out, and so it's hard for him to be too upset with the organization for granting him that wish and sending him to a pretty good location in Baltimore there. But yeah, I don't think that we're completely out of the woods. I mean, we start struggling again, which, I mean, geez, our first 7, 8 weeks, seven in particular, are pretty brutal. And so if we're 2-5 and there's some team that really wants him and is willing to pay a high price, I mean, still early stages of the rebuild, I don't think that it's impossible to think that he could get traded again. Um, but for the time being, he's handling it well. He's been, sort of all out at practice, back to being Max Crosby. The guys are following him. He's leading. And so it's not an issue right now. It could sort of come up again. I know Jerry Jones started up doing what Jerry Jones does at the beginning of training camp, but I really don't. I don't see any way that he would get traded or it'd be a real conversation until near the deadline.
Sure. Yeah, understandable. I would say this: he would be one of the most valuable trade pieces on the market. You guys can still get a first mid-season. So, I would just hope that it's not somebody the Texans have to see. I was kind of happy, not gonna lie, when he was taken off the board for the Ravens because we see them. I want to say the back half of the season. I don't know if it's week 12 or 13, but he would
Mhm.
have been back there. So I'm glad that we missed you guys, because he wrecked the game last time, or at least he tried to when we faced you guys. So glad I
Yeah.
don't have to see him this year.
Yeah.
Yep. But moving on from that though, man. So preseason game number 2. Let's actually get into this week, right? So another Thursday nighter. You guys will be visiting Reliant in our traffic here. Independent of the Texans, what would you say are your, look forwards for this game? Like what are your expectations for preseason game number 2?
Yeah, one big thing I'm looking for is how our defensive coordinator adjusts. So last week, I mean, he's a first year defensive coordinator. He was our D line coach and run game coordinator the last few years. And, his first time ever calling plays at any level. So last week, they kind of threw all of our young DBs in the deep end and said, guard man to man, and let's see how you can do. And it didn't go particularly well. And Clint Kubiak sort of said after the game, we have some decisions to make. We wanted to see how those guys could cover. And so I'm really looking forward to if they immediately make that adjustment and just kind of call off the experiment for them to guard man, or if they're just going to kind of keep throwing them in and see how they can respond. And then I want to see better run fits on defense. Linebackers, were pretty good, but the defensive interior didn't do a lot, to get push in the run game, and it sort of seemed like our DBs were a little bit out of position at times. I think we had 7 missed tackles from the secondary, so that's a big thing that I want to see improvement on. And then obviously, hard not to say you want to see Fernando take another step. I mean, I don't know if he'll get the start or not, but you want to see him sort of experiment even more. He made a lot of good throws, a lot of sort of ballsy throws last week. You want to see him just sort of keep building on that, keep expanding his confidence and his repertoire, early on, and then special teams. You want to see a kicker make a kick. I mean, our kicking battle is not going tremendous. I don't know if either of them will be our kicker in week 1, and so you want to see things cleaned up a little bit on special teams and in the penalty department.
Sure. Very succinct. So you're talking about defense, man. So I was just kind of looking through some numbers here. Low key, you guys didn't have the worst of defenses last year. Just passing. I was kind of looking here. Passing defense, you guys 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 14th best at allowing 201 passing yards per game. Rushing, was that rushing I was thinking of?
We were like fourth in yards per attempt allowed last year.
Right. So
Like
I think that
pretty
was a stat. So like, yeah. So short, like you guys didn't allow a lot of stuff, but I just think like once the dam broke on you guys, that's when it was like, okay, and that happens. Like you can be a stout defense for like a game or two or a half or two, but eventually guys get tired. Plays break down, and things happen. So I will say that like you guys had a sneakily effective defense. I think you're also 14th overall, so slightly above average. So it's not like you guys are the Titans where you are like 32nd across the board or something like that. Like it's not that. So you guys only need so much more to be effective. So there's that again, which is why I'm glad we already faced you guys. So yeah. As far as I go, I mean, look, from the Texan side of things, look for us. I mean, look, it'll be CJ Stroud's first game, of the preseason, right? A guy who you and I both know ad nauseum has been, criticized and, oh, is he really the real CJ Stroud? And, rookie season is a fluke and all these things. I will say this, man. I don't buy into the paranoia. I am buying CJ Stroud stock. However, I will say this. I will be fair. When I see guys like Ty Simpson, when I see Josh Allen, when I see who Lamar, like when I see different quarterbacks like Fernando who are throwing for either over 100 yards, multiple touchdowns, leading their team to victories, or just looking good in the preseason. I know it's preseason, but that increases the pressure for guys who are supposed to dominate, right? So on the
right.
Texans side of things, with what you guys expect, for me as a Texans fan, speaking for myself, I just want to see CJ Stroud get out there and be himself. But I do need to see some domination, right? I do kind of need to see him looking like a guy who's a man amongst boys, Levi, if that makes sense. Where
Hmm. Yeah.
like, I look, will you throw a pick? Maybe, right? Like, will you see some passes batted? It happens. It's football. But again, Ty Simpson, Josh Allen, Fernando Mendoza. Like I'm looking at Ty, Badgett. Like I'm seeing guys looking good in preseason. I need you to come out with something to prove, right? So that's my thing. Our ones are playing to according to Coach D'Amico Ryans as he stands. Everyone who's healthy is going to play. So we're going to see the ones. We're going to see Will Daniil. We're going to see Sting. We're going to see Kamar. We're going to see Kalen. It's just all them dudes back there, the all pros and pro bowlers. So for me, I just want to see these guys be efficient, handle business, give me 1 or 2 drives, look elite, and get off the field. Wrap up in bubble wrap, get in the cold
Yeah.
tub. You're already at home, right? So just go down the street, just take your Ubers, take your cars, go home, and just take
Yeah.
care of yourself. That's what I want to see.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but
Our
speaking, yeah, yeah,
Well, I was just gonna say our defense, we didn't give up or I'm sorry, we didn't force an incompletion until the third quarter last week against Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew. They went
gee,
16 of 16 in the first half combined.
yeah.
So this is a good chance for him to make a statement and gain some confidence and yeah, and set himself on the right track if we don't clean it up. So
Yeah, that's rough. That reminds me of the Jets, man. Not a single INT the whole season.
yeah.
This is not even a Jets show right now, but like just that's what we're talking about. Like nobody wants to be the Jets. So there you
Hmm.
go. I don't even think the Jets want to be the Jets. But yeah, man. So I'll roll over to this question, man. So we talked about what you're looking for. So in the event of a Raiders victory, right? Like what would be the keys? Like what would be the 3 things that need to happen for you guys to beat the Texans on Thursday?
First thing that comes to mind is being able to run the ball. I mean, I worry a little bit about both Kirk Cousins and a young Fernando Mendoza throwing into that secondary and trying, too hard to push the ball up the field. There's a bunch of
Yeah.
ball hawks back there and
Yes,
seemingly
there
every
are.
group. I mean, Kamari
Yes,
Ramsey,
there
it's
are.
like, you guys are just bottomless, playmakers back there. So really want to see the run game get going so that we don't have to throw the ball a ton.
Mhm.
The other one would be, yeah, secondary play needs to improve. We can't just give up, yards on every single time the quarterback drops back. I mean, our defensive line wasn't getting pressure. Our cornerbacks weren't covering well. So it was just sort of a disjointed effort. And then cleaning up the penalties. I mean, we had 7 penalties in the first half. We kicked a ball out of bounds short of the landing zone, gave him the ball at the 40. I mean, we didn't win do the little things and like sort of win the time of possession battle or the penalty battle or the field position battle, like just a lot of things like that. First time head coach in his first game is, it was a little bit of a tough sledding for a few things like that. So that's going to be huge for us getting into that win column there.
You sound like a coach, man. Yeah, that's all coach speak.
There we
That's
go.
all that is. And but again, that's it. It sounds cliche, but that's football. That literally is
It
what it
is.
comes down to. It's details.
Mhm.
It's paying attention. What's your assignment? Like Bill Belichick said, do your job. So those are the boring tidbits, but that's what wins football games. So
Mhm.
yep. For me, again, the Texan side of things. Number one key, run the football. Like you said, I look for our own reasons, right? Like we need to show we can run the football, and that starts with the offensive line. So it's kind of a two-fer. So number one, run the football. Can we run it? David Montgomery, Woody Marks, Noah Whittington, right? Like what does that unit look like on the field? And then my second key, of course, is the offensive line, which would lead to a rushing attack. How do y'all look? Right, because I, got access to the All 22 film. Shout out NFL Pro, great tool if you don't have it. And I saw some things I didn't like. Right, I saw Kalen Rutledge, credit to him. He did his job. But I saw guys like, and I hate to call him out, but Braden Smith, he had a pretty rough go of it. Jake Andrews, I guess now the backup center. So I need to see specifically our interior of the offensive line do a better job of being physical. Right, like I don't want to keep seeing inside stunts where my center is getting just knocked off the ball, right? Like my left guard is getting yanked into the play. He can't get off his guy, and like I don't want to see that kind of stuff in the
Mhm.
preseason against twos and threes. I don't want to see that. So can we run the football? Offensive line hold up, which leads to rushing attack. And then for me, just kind of my third key, figuring out. I'm not even going to mention defense. That's not even a key. That they're just there. As an honorable mention, stay healthy defense. But my
There you
third
go.
key would be like skill position players, right? Like we have guys like Jared Wayne, a wide receiver, who he stamped his claim to a spot last week in the end zone against the Chargers, right? We got guys like Lewis Bond. We have Tank Dell, who is he going to return? Yes or no? Like we have all these swirling pieces in the receiving core, specifically like what can we see from them on the field at the same time, right? So those are my keys, man. But
Mhm.
yeah, it should be fun anyway. And I'll ask
Yeah.
you this one last question, man. Let's say the Raiders win this game, right? What kind of significance would it have for the franchise, for the fans? Like I know it's a preseason game, but would that be meaningful if you guys are able to pull off what would be an upset against this number one defense, against this offense for you guys right now? Like how would that feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be big. It would feel great. I mean, not only, again, first time head coach, you want to get that win out of the way, even if it's preseason, just get in the win column and get everybody feeling good, being winless or 0-2, whatever it is that in the preseason the vibes, maybe start to go down a little bit. Guys are about to get cut. They got one game left, it's you want to get some good feelings there in the locker room. And also Texans are one of the best teams in the NFL and seemingly one of the deepest, maybe not at every position, but you guys should outmatch us pretty much, no matter what group's running against what group. And so, we have a lot of depth concerns. We've got a lot of promising pieces, but guys that really need to step up and sort of answer the call here and, in year 2, 3. So it would be big for us to show that we can compete or take down, guys that are in that second, third group on a playoff team, on a contending team. And, culture is what's being built this year. We're trying to prove that this is a guy that should be followed in Clint Kubiak, and this is a quarterback that should be the franchise guy. And so, even if Mendoza goes out there against the Texans twos and plays well, it's like, well, he was with the second team offense, and and he's going up against their twos, and this is a good defense. And so, I mean, I think it all matters just from a vibes perspective. Nobody's gonna be like, we're gonna win the Super Bowl, but like you just want to see those early signs against a team like the Texans. And joint practices will be maybe an even bigger indication. Probably won't get the vibes quite as high as a win, but joint practices should be a good measuring stick for us.
No, absolutely. Enjoy practices. Like, what's the over under on the amount of scuffles we might see at joint practices? That I mean, look, it happens, man. The fact that it doesn't, that would be a shocker. But
Hmm.
Levi, I really appreciate you, man. This is very
Yep.
efficient. Man, you're just so insightful, sounding like a coach, like you should have a headset on. But no, man, look, I'm happy, to have you on, man. It was an honor. And look, if we were playing this season, I would say join back up later on down the line. But, this would be where we part ways, man. But I hope the best for you and your team. I hope you guys are rewarded as a fan base for your patience. I know you guys have been through a lot, like a whole heck of a lot, and I'm glad it won't involve us this year. But
Yeah.
with that being said, you guys, this is Clayton Anderson once again, host of the We Want Houston podcast on this Sunday edition. I also covered the Houston Texans for Tour Times of the Fansided Network. That was Mr. Levi Dombro, a talented individual who is of the Just Blog Baby Las Vegas Raiders based site for Fansided. Guys, you guys can stay healthy. Have a blessed rest of your Sunday, and go Texans.